Some movies just have to make it onto your all-time greatest horror flicks list. And this is one of them. Okay, everybody, today we are going all the way back to 1963 to look at the master of horror put out one of what I think is his all-time greats, The Birds. I love this movie, but we'll get more into that later on. Anyway, before we go any further, before we dig into this anymore, once and again, and as always, to the trailer.
How do you do? My name is Alfred Hitchcock, and I would like to tell you about our good friends, the birds.
That's the damnedest thing I ever saw.
Birds just don't go around attacking people without no reason.
Yes, they attack the children. Attack them.
What's the matter with all the birds? Birds are not aggressive creatures, miss. They bring beauty into the world.
Those gulls attack.
Impossible.
They came in right down the chimney.
Why are they doing things?
It's the end of the world.
Are the birds gonna eat us, Mommy?
Get yourselves guns and wipe them off the face of the earth.
That would hardly be possible.
Mitch, don't!
The 5 continents of the world contain more than 100 billion birds.
All at once, the birds were everywhere.
Why don't you all go home? Lock your doors and windows. Did you get the windows in the attic? When do you think they'll come? What happens when you run out of wood?
I don't know.
You don't know. When will you know? When we're all dead.
They're coming! They're coming!
Alright, this motion picture was directed by the man himself. Need I say more? Here we go down the list. We're talking he did Psycho, come on, the all-time great. He did Marnie and Vertigo and The Man Who Knew Too Much and Rear Window and To Catch a Thief and The Wrong Man, Notorious, Spellbound, Torn Curtain, North by Northwest. Are you shitting me? So, it is what it is. Long career, massive career, all kinds of good shit. It's Alfred Hitchcock. Let's be real. Oh yeah, and he also had the Alfred Hitchcock Presents TV show, which is actually pretty cool. Okay, playing Mitch. Rod Taylor. Don't you love those old Hollywood names? Rod Taylor. Whatever. Let's go. Of course, he was in The Immortal, The Amazing, The One and the Only, The Time Machine. But he was in some other stuff too, like Sunday in New York and Glass Bottom Boat, The Hero, Hell River, Open Season, even popped up in Inglourious Bastards a few years ago, and TV, Falcon Crest, Oregon Trail, Masquerade. It is what it is. He had a decent career. Some of you remember, some of you might not. Is the way it goes. Let's keep moving. Playing Melanie. Ironically, the name of her daughter in real life at the time, Tippi Hedren. Yep, let's do this. Okay, of course, she was in Marnie. She was also in Roar, and Satan's Harvest, and A Countess from Hong Kong, and Tiger by the Tail, and tons of TV work too. Bold and the Beautiful, Dream On, Heart to Heart, Bionic Woman, Tales from the Dark Side, Murder, She Wrote, and like I kind of hinted at before, she gave us Melanie Griffith. How can you knock that? Playing Lydia, a very, well, reasonably young Jessica Tandy. What? Yes. Let's do this. We're talking, of course, she was in Batteries Not Included. She was in Fried Green Tomatoes, and Driving Miss Daisy, and Nobody's Fool, and Cocoon the Return, and Still the Night, and The World According to Garp, and Used People, and TV stuff. You know what I mean? Omnibus, Alfred Hitchcock Presents, The FBI, all that kind of shit. So, big career, long career. Most of you are going to remember her from when she was more like, you know, in her 60s and 70s, but it is what it is. She made her mark. She was out there. Playing Annie? Susan Pleshette? Oh, really? Yes. Here we go. Well, as we all know, she was really known mostly for her TV work. So let's dive into this. She was on little doodads like Dr. Kildare, and The Fugitive, and The Invaders, and the FBI, and The Name of the Game, and Bridges Across, and Nightingales, and The Boys Are Back, Good Morning Miami, 8 Simple Rules, Will and Grace, and of course what you all remember her for, let's knock off this shit, is the Bob Newhart Show. It's like David Duchovny. You think of him, you think X-Files, there you go. Suzanne Pleshette, it is the Bob Newhart Show. It'll be her legacy, just the way it goes. And playing Cathy, a very young Veronica Cartwright. She actually started out in Hollywood as a kid. I mean, she was doing like little kid parts in Daniel Boone, and she was in Leave It to Beaver, and she was in Twilight Zone, and of course, then she went on to movies, Going South, Nightmares, Wisdom, Witches of Eastwick, and then kind of like back to TV again with ERs and the X-Files and Chicago Hope. But let's knock off the bullshit. She's going to remember to all of you and to me, really, for 2 things. Alien and Invasion of the Body Snatchers. And that is enough right there. You throw in that, you throw in the birds, you throw in Invasion of the Body Snatchers. I mean, come on. Just these 3. Historic. And you know me, I like to throw a little bit of light onto other people that pop up in these motion pictures that you're going to be like, I think I recognize that guy or girl. But maybe you just can't place it. We're talking people like Doodles Weaver, who was in stuff like, Bigfoot and Macon County Line. And Malcolm Atterbury, who was on TV shows, like Gunsmoke and The Westerner. And Joe Mantell. Oh, he was on Maude, The Untouchables, all that kind of stuff. And Karl Swenson, Gunsmoke, Lassie. These are faces that if you were young in the 70s or something like that, or 60s, you're going to remember them and say, I've seen that dude before. Is what it is. They were in this. Keep an eye out. You'll see them. Okay, everybody, I'm going to do this in 90 seconds or less so I can keep it short, keep it fast, keep it entertaining, keep it moving, so we'd all get to where we'd much rather be, the summation. And the plot to this is relatively simple and straightforward, so you can probably do this in a minute and a half and not have much sweat to it. The movie starts out, you got this young lady, she's in a shop, she's buying birds, Tippi Hedren, or she's ordering them, I should say, when a young guy comes in, Rod Taylor, and he's looking around for a couple birds, or is he? And he starts asking her questions, thinking she works there, and she just plays along with it, having herself a little good time. And then all of a sudden he springs the truth on her that he knows who she is. He's just messing with her. He's an attorney, and he knows that she's this little rich chick who likes to get herself into little trouble and mischievous fun and wound up in court. He was there. He remembered her. She didn't remember him. So he was just having a little bit of fun with her. Anyway, long story short, her daddy is a big, powerful man at a newspaper, owns it actually, and she gets intrigued by this man. So she takes his license plate number, makes a few phone calls, and finds out where he lives. Due to some things he told her about, his little sister having a birthday and wanting these lovebirds. She says, well, I'll get one on him. And she's kind of attracted to the guy. Let's knock off the shit. So she gets a couple of lovebirds. She finds out where he lives. And she kind of, basically stalks the guy almost single white female style. But we'll let all that go. So she goes out to his house. She finds out where he lives. She motorboats out. She hides the birds in his house. And then she tries to escape where he sees her. And the fun ensues because he tracks her down to the city. But in this, you start to see weird things. There's birds gathering. There's oddball little things. And all of a sudden, just before she gets out of the boat she was in and meets up with the man she's been stalking, a seagull hits her out of nowhere. Bams her in the head. Is what it is. He takes her, kind of gets her bandaged up, invites her for dinner. She's a little bit nervous. She starts lying. She says, I'm here for this, I'm here for that. And then she actually brutally lies and says that she's hanging out with this chick, Annie, and visiting her, which just happens to be Rod Taylor's ex-girlfriend and local school teacher who just cannot leave because she loves Rod Taylor too much, is what it is. From there, she goes on. She meets the moms, finds out the mom is a little bit strangely possessive of her son. Long story short, gets along great with his little sister Cathy, winds up becoming semi-friends with Annie, the woman she lied about, but had a thing for Rod Taylor. And through all of this, you see the birds start doing odd things. They start attacking people. They start attacking kids' birthday parties. They start attacking people at a diner. Everybody's like, what the hell is going on? Where finally there's the big dramatic where they attack the school, followed by the big dramatic where they attack the house. And What kids will survive, what adults will survive, what kind of crazy shit has taken place, I'm not going to tell you. I'm not going to tell you who makes it. I'm not going to tell you what loved ones survive. I'm not going to tell you what loved ones pass away. I'm not even going to tell you what love kindles and grows. I'm just going to tell you it's a good shit movie. And we're going to get to that why now. Now why? In the summation. Okay, everybody, does The Birds work? Yes, The Birds works. It's an all-time classic. It's one of the great little horror flicks of all time. I shit you not. Before we go and dig any further into it, let's get the big three out of the way. First, the directing. The movie's beautiful. The movie is beautiful to look at. Simply put, you all know Hitchcock can frame a scene. You all know he can put some shit on the screen where you're like, wow, just wow. And he does it here over and over again. So, directing, top notch, is what it is. Let's keep rolling. The writing's great. Yes, it's a little bit of that, 50s, 60s style. It is what it is. It's that era of time. It's that Hollywood. But it works, and it is good and effective. So the writing, more than satisfactory, let me put it that way. There's that playful banter between Rod Taylor and Tippi Hedren. You know what I mean? Will he, won't he? Does he like her? Does she like him? Why is she doing this? What's going on? There's all that kind of stuff. There's even great banter between the mother and Tippi Hedren, and great banter between Susan Pleshette and Tippi Hedren. So there's a lot going on there, and it covers all the bases. So the writing is great. And the acting, surprisingly good all the way across the board, especially by Tippi Hedren, who was really just a model and didn't know what the hell she was doing. There's a long backstory between her and Hitchcock and all that we're not even going to bother getting into. But for somebody who was really kind of right out the gate, she does a very, very solid job. Most of her job is just being this playful rich girl or whatever, but she does her job effectively, and more power to her for that. Rod Taylor's cool in his role. I mean, he's kind of just playing that guy, but he does that guy well. All the bit parts are great. And actually, I think like Susan Pleshette and I think like Jessica Tandy are exceptional in their roles. So, you can't knock any of it. The acting, above water and beyond. Again, so why does this motion picture work? Really, two things. Atmosphere, mood, and it does what any movie like this is supposed to do. It keeps you in that zone on the edge of your seat. You're digging it, you're loving it, and you are on for the ride, and you never get off. Let's talk about some of the obvious things that I might talk about in other motion pictures, but the things that make this great. Obviously, the pacing is phenomenal. It gives you enough time to get into character development. You actually spend more time with the characters than you do with the birds, but you still get a good amount of bird time. Don't let that throw you. It's one of the old rules of Hollywood. If you give people enough time in the normal, when you introduce the supernatural or the abnormal, they're more apt to believe it. And you spend enough time with the characters in this motion picture, getting to know them, getting to like them, getting to wonder about them, getting to examine what goes on in their head, that when the weird shit starts taking place, you kind of roll with it, you kind of get into it, and there's never that issue of, oh, give me a break. You just kind of follow into what it is. So, the mood, the pacing, everything is perfect in the right amount of character development. When you have good writing, and you have good character development, and maybe just a byproduct of its time, you will be amazed how all the characters in this motion picture behave and act like adults, no matter what the situation is. No matter the fact that you got two women basically crushing over the same guy, you got a woman fighting with the guy's mother. There's never any screaming and shouting and yelling and slapping and hitting and pulling hair and rolling around on the front lawn and anything like that. These people, even though they might have different agendas, even though they might have different ideas in their heads about what they want out of life, they still find a way to act like adults, to be respectful, even towards each other, and to sit there and have meaningful conversations. Shit that's completely missing from today's motion pictures, by the way. One more thing about that pacing thing is because they brilliantly put it into the script where the birds would attack in waves and then chill for a while, and then a wave, and then chill for a while, and then a wave. It never got to the point where it was ridiculous and it was just like a birds freaking out, attacking every 3 seconds show. It wasn't like that. It was like wave, calm, so you had horror characters, horror characters, and because they would only attack in waves brilliantly, you had many scenes where the people would go out and just walk among them. whether it was at the school grounds, whether it was at the house near the end. No matter what it was tension building because you didn't know when that silent alarm was going to go off in all the birds and they were just going to attack or for whatever reason. You never knew. You just knew it was coming. You didn't know when. They didn't know when. So they were just kind of moving among them at the moments when they had to, and that built so much tension. It was such brilliant story writing. Also, one of the things that's amazing about this motion picture that I truly love is it had the balls to have absolutely no score. That's right, folks. There's no score in this motion picture. Nothing. Zilch. Even the credits in the beginning is just the sound of birds, whatever the hell they make, whatever they do. That's all that you heard through the whole opening titles. It was unsettling and eerie and weird. Let's face it, we're all used to the music in movies, we're all used to the score in movies, and this motion picture had none, and it lent to such a vibe, such a feeling of authenticity, such an amazing amount of mood that you'll never forget it. And let me ask you this, how many motion pictures can you think of, especially in the horror drama category, that will work with no score? Think about it. Picture Halloween without the even Carpenter said when he screened it without the music, all the execs said, what is this shit? It falls flat. With the music, amazing. Think of Jaws without the score. Think of The Exorcist without picturing tubular bells in your head. How many movies just would not work without the score? How many of them you'd be like, oh, this is kind of fucking flat, I don't get it, without the score? This movie, no score. Just the sounds of nature, birds, people talking, background movies done by the goddamn, whatever department, the sound department, whoever. It's just sounds, voices, and noises. And it gives you an unsettled feeling like you would not believe. It is brilliantly done for that. Kind of like, Blair Witch did years and years and years later. Is what it is. And another thing to look out for in this motion picture is, and it's hard to spot because it's so expertly done, is the paintings by Albert Whitlock. Master of matte painting. Genius extraordinaire is what it is. One of his last movies I think that he really worked on was The Thing with Carpenter. But there's so many scenes in this motion picture where you just think you're looking at beautiful landscape. Well, some of it is real and some of it is an Albert Whitlock painting. And it is just amazing. I don't know how to put it in any other words. This is when Hollywood had some really talented individuals. They didn't go and whip this shit up on a Macintosh. They went and they painted it by hand. And it was stunning to look at. And if you know when and where to look, you see it. You're just going to be blown away. So go out on the internet, look whether it was the lake scene crossing or whatever the hell it is, and think of all the artwork that went into this. It's just stunning to look at. Amazingly, amazingly beautiful. Are there any negatives? Not really. I mean, maybe to some today it might feel a little bit dated with the style of acting or the style of shooting the film or the delivery. That kind of thing. You definitely know this is a movie from another period of time. It was before the uber realism darkness of like the 70s and shit kicked in and everything took off from there. But even though it has a little bit of the old Hollywood vibe in it, it's not so old where you feel like this is just stiff stage acting. And not so realistic it felt like the 70s that came in afterwards. It's in that little way period in between. It was still good. It was still all you needed. And I can't think really of anything offhand to shit on this motion picture about. Okay, hold on. Something just popped in my head. Maybe, and it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing because it works in the motion picture. But you know what I mean? The drunk in the diner scene when the birds were attacking. It's the end of the world! The end of the world! Okay, maybe you can say that didn't really fit and it was a moment of levity in an overwhelmingly fairly dark movie. But maybe that. Maybe. Okay, everybody, get out there and check out the birds. I know there's been a million motion pictures where nature turns on humanity. I know there's been a million motion pictures where the animals of nature turn on the human race. I don't care if it was atomically charged spiders and big, atomically charged ants way back in the day, to Kingdom of the Spiders, or Food of the Gods, or Dogs, or any of those kind of motion pictures. There's been a zillion of them, we get it. But none of them, as great as many of them were, can really compete with the beauty, the acting, the tension, the drama, the character development of the birds. It's one of those great all-time flicks. It's one of, to me, Alfred Hitchcock's crowning achievements. And it should never, ever be missed or never, ever be forgotten. And don't ever skip on it because you say, well, it's 1963. Who cares? To everybody out there who's under 40, still go check this motion picture out. It's legendary. Okay, be good. Take care. Stay out of trouble. Be kind to a stranger. Be there for your friends. And above all else, never, ever take any bullshit from anybody. See y'all soon.